Hello and welcome to the Clear Science Communication webinar series on managing social media for researchers and research labs. I am a professor at the Department of Communication at Wayne State University, and this is the third and final part of the series. In part one, we discovered various uses of social media for your research and the strategy behind choosing among different platforms. Then, in part two, we reviewed 8 platforms widely used by academics. In this part, I'll share some best practices as a science communicator, along with a few cautionary notes. After that, you get to have a go on your own. For any social media strategy, keep in mind the 3 rules that I introduced back in part one. First, know your purpose. Second, know your audience. And then finally, know your limits. Based on those rules, here are 15 best practices for managing social media as a researcher. Number 1, leverage your social media profile's real estate. This includes the short bio, links to other websites or research or platforms, your profile picture, or your profile's cover image. All of this can help tell your story as a researcher. Number 2, keep to the message. What are the key points of your story that you want to convey? Don't get sidetracked into elaborate but ultimately unnecessary details. Number 3, know your voice and stay consistent with it. You don't have to pretend to be something you are not, whether in terms of research, grant getting, teaching, public scholarship, or anything else. Be authentic. Number 4, post content that is relevant to your audience. Think about what they would like to know and the format that they would find most convenient. Number 5, explain terms, specialized concepts, jargon, acronyms, statistics, and other elements that lay audiences and interdisciplinary audiences will not grasp. Note that I am not saying you shouldn't use these elements at all. In fact, the nature of your work probably includes many complex elements that you can't not include. All I'm saying is try to provide an explanation and break it down for those who might not be in your field. Number 6, use interesting captions, emojis, and hashtags that emphasize key points and capture audience attention. All of these things help explain complex information and charts for your audience. Number 7, be social. Post content that invites conversations with followers. Follow, like, share, and comment on content from others, not just your own. Thank others for engaging with your content. In short, social media is not about one-way sharing of information. To be successful, you have to invite and allow for dialogue and elevate other voices, not just your own. Number 8, use interesting audiovisuals that not only grab attention, but also help retain it. Action shots in the lab or during field work, which show you doing research, are more interesting oftentimes than headshots. Use images and videos to convey what you're doing or why it's important or who you are beyond just a headshot. Number 9, Canva, Pictochart, and Adobe Spark are easy and free tools to create custom graphics. Ensure key details in the graphics are explained in accessible language. Custom graphics can help explain the gist of your work to audiences who may not be in your field or who have not read your whole paper. Only 6 more best practices to go. Hang in there. So number 10 is try to keep your videos short. Shorter videos engage audiences more. Think 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Number 11, sometimes text-only posts can be crucial for audiences who lack access to fast internet and data speed. For example, communities in rural areas or those who might not be able to afford high-speed internet may not actually be able to view the sharp videos and pictures and graphics that you share, but they will be able to follow the text that you post. Number 12, remember that some social media platforms may kill links to competing platforms. For example, if you post a YouTube link on X, the algorithm for X may not promote it as much as a video that was posted directly on the X platform. Number 13, using a scheduler tool like Buffer or CoSchedule to plan future posts on different social media can help you conserve both time and effort. Number 14, don't forget to evaluate your social media strategy. Instead of simply posting stuff without tracking how audiences are actually engaging with the content, so become familiar with the analytic tools of your platform. For example, you can trace when your audience is most active and post accordingly for maximum impact. Late nights versus mornings and afternoons is a great example. And finally, number 15, as you tell your story using social media, don't be so modest that you downplay your accomplishments. Recognize that you are an expert on the topic, albeit an emerging one if you are a graduate student or a young scholar. At the same time, don't come off as someone who cannot be bothered with learning something new from other people. That's it. Be sure to rinse and repeat these best practices for your social media strategy. So, how do these best practices look with a real post? Let's assume you want to share a new publication on X. Instead of a single standalone post with the link to the article, consider using threads to post interconnected posts where you can explain better why the new publication is important. Be sure to number the posts in the thread so that your audience knows whether to expect 3 or 4 or 5 posts they have to read. Your first post could provide the main takeaway point of the publication, along with the URL of the article. Subsequent posts could explain the problem your study addressed, briefly refer to the theory or prior research that was helpful, explaining key terms at the same time. Then you could briefly explain your research methodology, provide 1 to 2 key highlights from the results, and then conclude with why this publication is important. Optionally, you can tag collaborators or specific followers who might be impacted by the research and would be interested in reading it. In the thread, I also recommend that you use images of the tables, figures, or charts from the publication so that you're not just posting text. Canva can help you create custom graphics or even edit your existing figures so that they're more accessible and easily understandable by folks who are not in your discipline or even lay audiences. Sometimes using GIFs can be amusing and attract interest as well. I'll end this webinar series with a few cautionary notes that can help you protect your mental wellness when it comes to using social media. First, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you are running social media for your research lab or department, then contact your institution's media or communications division to make sure that you are adhering to established policy. And you can avail of any resources, training modules, or best practices they may already have. Second, recognize that the internet is full of misinformation and disinformation, so that the truth isn't always out there, regardless of what the X-Files tells us. Stick to the facts and the evidence where possible, and make sure that your sources are credible and legitimate when engaging in conversation or debate with other social media users. Third, if your research has political impact, or you end up advocating for a particular social or political policy, try to keep your emotions in check. Deeply consider the major message or takeaway you want your audience to pick up before you hit send on whatever you're typing. So that way you minimize the possibility of being accused of bias or partisanship. Finally, remember not to feed the internet trolls you may encounter, who are clearly not interested in learning science, but just wants to get into a fight. Don't take the bait. Being a social media warrior will not win you any medals or help the science in the long run. Now that we're at the end of this three-part webinar series, I hope you will have a go at creating a social media plan for your research team or lab. Remember to consider the features of the different platforms available, the purpose you have in mind for using these platforms, the audiences you're hoping to target, and the content you want to create and share on these platforms. I hope you found this webinar series on managing social media for researchers useful. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to know more about CLEAR, then please visit our website and follow us on X, YouTube, and LinkedIn.